the full off-season period. What the hell?
It's one of the joys when you're recording a show in a massive convention center. And you have people having full-on brawls underneath of us.
We're live.
The swords aren't real, damn.
Again, this is the 323 coming live from Washington, D.C., the Walter E. Washington Convention Center from AwesomeCon 2024. NFL free agency, the whole negotiating period is about to start on Monday. We are recording on Saturday right now. As of the time that we are recording right now, we've already had some major movement going across, especially this past week, through the NFL landscape. Jerry Jeudy was just traded from the Denver Broncos to the Cleveland Browns for 2 draft picks. I think a 5th and a 6th round draft pick.
I didn't open the articles. I never saw.
Yeah, it was something lowish, which I don't hate. I don't hate the
5th
move.
and a 6th.
5th and a 6th. Yeah, I don't hate the move by Cleveland to pair him up with Amari Cooper and.
You see time and time again, somebody's going to hit in a 5th or 6th round pick, but that's a low risk kind of thing.
That's how much Amari Cooper was traded for.
Right, and like Jerry Jeudy, he does have.
He's got
talent. He's got it there. I think the situation that he was in Denver is absolutely just terrible.
Yeah.
At least Deshaun Watson, with all his faults, is still drastically better than any quarterback that Denver has had.
And you still have an opportunity, I think, with Deshaun Watson to improve. I don't think that he's completely gone in terms of his talent. I think that there still could. It's hard. It's got to be hard. He was looked at before being traded, before everything went down in Houston. He was we were looking at him as the next tier to Patrick Mahomes. He was playing at that level. So I can't see that just completely going away.
Watson, Allen, Mahomes was kind of the main trio of the NFL.
It wasn't a mobility related thing, even with injuries and just being, out of the game for a year and a half. I don't, maybe it's a mental thing right now with everything that's been happening, and I'm not rooting for the guy. But
for the sake of talking sports,
for the sake of the sport, I still think that he could achieve to that level, unless he's just Albert Hainsworth of quarterbacks. Now he got the bag and doesn't give a shit anymore. But quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited, was released by the Denver Broncos officially last week. It's assumed that he's going to sign for the veteran minimum somewhere. He still has to get his contract paid by Denver. For this upcoming season will be about $38 million that he'll be getting no matter what, so he can sign for the veteran minimum of $1 million with any other team, and that's a bargain for any team that needs a quarterback, even if they don't. Yeah, even if you didn't necessarily like Russ going into this, you're like, well, shit, he can still start. He can start. He's durable for the most part. He doesn't really get hurt, and we talked about it before about Minnesota being a potential option for him, the Raiders being a potential option. Zoo, is there a spot that you could see? Pittsburgh is one that's been coming up a lot.
Pittsburgh, and then honestly, depending on what the Commanders decide to do, because I doubt Brissett wants to stay because he could have a starting job somewhere.
Yeah.
You got to have that veteran presence for a new quarterback, anyways. As much as I love Sam Howell, if we go with Drake May or Jaden Daniels, someone's who has experience has to be in that room with him, right?
Yeah.
So if Russell Wilson comes in for $1.7 million to be a backup quarterback and a mentor to one of them, absolutely, that makes so much sense. I see the same thing happening with Russell Wilson that could happen with Justin Fields, and that's that they don't actually get picked up until halfway through the season when there's a quarterback injury and someone's desperate. Because Carson Wentz was kind of in that same boat. He got cut, and then he didn't get signed until halfway through the season by the Rams.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're talking about where could he end up in this and that. I think we may not actually know for either of those names until a few months down the road. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a team that I just clicked in my head because it all kind of lines up perfectly. Because like you said, you're going to get him for very cheap. There's no really big risk money-wise. But let's think of a team that just gave out a huge contract to a very mediocre quarterback, and you bringing in Russ might end up being able to light a fire under his ass a little bit.
New York.
And that's Daniel Jones and the Giants.
Yeah.
It's a very easy fit for, it's a big market. It's what Russ wants. He wants to have lights on him. It's not a lot of money, especially for New York, since they already have that money tied up right now in Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones, the one thing that he hasn't had to deal with is somebody sitting behind him. that can easily take his job. So I think that might be another sneaky pick.
And you brought up Justin Fields a minute ago, and that's something that's starting to get a little interesting. I mean, the talk has been from the NFL scouting combine. We've talked about Caleb Williams and not, performing athletically there, but his interviews his interviews apparently went fantastically, according to like these guys like Mike Florio and all these teams that were there. They said he did his interviews, and they said he really changed the narrative on himself as a leader and somebody that you want leading your franchise. And a lot of these teams are very impressed by him, and they think he's a really awesome person, an awesome locked-in quarterback, and he wants to be the best he can be. So I definitely see Chicago. I still think that's the best option. Just reset your cap right there with somebody who I think has a higher ceiling than Fields and Caleb Williams. So that leaves Justin Fields open. Bears were apparently trying to test that market at the scouting combine of, hey, you got Justin Fields open. What would you think about, what'd you think about him? And apparently the response has been very timid, very low. Nobody's really caring too much about that. Pittsburgh doesn't seem to be interested in him. Denver, not yet. Raiders have his former offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, as their OC now, so nobody knows what the relationship really was, if that's good for them or not.
But my thing is, like, how much is that just real, or how much is that just teams playing their cards close to their chest?
And it could be. It could be a leverage play. This is smokescreen season. Yeah. So people are going to put out false narratives.
Because I know it's, Jerry Jones, but Trey Lance, who was an inactive quarterback, got traded for a 4th-round pick.
Yeah. And that's honestly, that's...
Before the season started.
I think from this time, just because Fields has been the starter in Chicago and the talent level that he has, we've been assuming that he's going to go somewhere where he's going to be the starter and a potential franchise guy. But, is it an option that he winds up going someplace and being like a backup? One thought that came to my mind is the Jets are looking... Jets have already said that they need. They've already said that they need a better backup quarterback than Zach Wilson. They've allowed him to seek permission on a trade or to seek a trade. But what if you send Fields to the Jets? Because I don't think that you're going to have to trade more than the way it's looking. I don't think you're going to be trading more than like a 4th.
Does Zach Wilson end up in Chicago?
For Fields?
Just throw Zach Wilson in there.
Yeah, throw Zach Wilson. Yeah,
do a little.
Send Zach Wilson over to the Bears. He'll back up Caleb Williams.
He'll get the pressure that he wants.
Yeah, and you send Fields to the Jets. You sit him behind Aaron Rodgers. You're really learning behind somebody like that. And he's going to be 40. You don't necessarily know how he's going to come back on that Achilles.
Right. So. And my thing too is that just worries me, just seeing how the interaction was between Love and Rodgers in Green Bay. Was Rodgers really the one that would want to put Jordan Love under his wing, or is he just like, no, you're here, you're threatened to my job, I don't want to help you, kind of thing? And
maybe we could buy into the Hard Knock stuff. He did seem to really embrace Zach Wilson being his protege and his heir there during the training camp season. So he could do the same for Fields. Maybe he's in a different mindset.
I think the Jordan Love thing was more of like, there's weapons that we need, but you drafted my replacement type of thing. Like, I don't think he had anything against Love. I'm sure he was like great to him in the room, but the situation of like what they needed was probably where the tension really kicked in there.
Yeah, you got to look and see how successful Jordan Love was this past season with virtually nowhere near the talent level that Rodgers has ever had in Green Bay. So
they finally get a 1st-round wide receiver like after he leaves.
Of course, now you get one.
Yeah, could you imagine Russell Wilson sitting behind Aaron Rodgers?
Oh my God,
it would never happen.
God, that would be the most insufferable quarterback room.
Like, put them back in Hard Knocks if that happens.
But I think that's going to be the issue that you're going to see for a while now, because if you take a step back and look at the landscape of the whole NFL, like, what teams out there have a veteran quarterback who's been established in the league for decades still on a team now? Kirk Cousins.
Atlanta, to me.
Other than him, it's like...
Darnold's not a Niner anymore. What if Russell Wilson went to the Niners?
Well, and this is also the thing, too. Teams are going to be... It's 2 years in a row now, and there's always a trend every few years that follows throughout the NFL, and the latest seems to be, renovate this quarterback. Geno Smith was the big renaissance quarterback a couple years ago for the Seahawks. Last year, it was...
Dobbs?
Yeah, there was Josh Dobbs. There was
Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco, like all these guys, these veteran guys that you put them in the right system. Look, they can be something. So I feel like Sam Darnold's going to be the target this year. of that.
Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota could be a place because Minnesota's already said that they want to go somewhere cheaper at the quarterback
Was the other guy
position.
that have Kyle Mond? Was it?
Yeah, Kellen Mond.
Kellen
They have Kellen Mond. They have
got the Pasternak.
Jaron Hall was the rookie
Right.
from BYU that they had. Your team is interesting. Baker Mayfield is going to be a free agent option, but I'm under the assumption that he is going to re-sign with Tampa Bay. They're just ironing out the details on it because I wouldn't think that Mike Evans would re-sign on that deal unless it was because he knew Baker was going to be back.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing that's just waiting to come out. And you're right with Mike Evans. Like, you put in your whole career at one team. As much as you want to continue that legacy in Tampa Bay, you're not going to want to come back with a question mark under center.
Yeah.
So, like, there has to be some kind of deal in the works with Baker to come back. I think Baker has expressed his interest to come back to Tampa Bay. And let's be honest, if you look at Baker Mayfield, he looks like he would live in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
You know, he just seems like the quintessential, Florida quarterback who just wants to be there. And honestly, what better option is there out there right now? You mean, you saw how successful he led that team when, expectations were ground zero. I mean, I had him up for 4 wins.
Right.
I got surprised with a wild card berth. Cool.
Yep.
I'll take it. I mean, that's just another year under Todd Bowles' offense. You got Mike Evans, who's your biggest weapon on offense. Just take all your draft capital and your free agent capital that you have left on the books and just dump it into O-line and defensive line like most teams have to do right now. So.
Yeah. Well, just to close it out, because again, we're recording on Saturday, a bunch of moves could have already happened by the time that this goes out, Sunday night, Monday. Russell Wilson might already be somewhere, but of everything that's an option going into free agency into this period, what's the most interesting to you, Zoo? What are things
I want
that you're
that
watching?
Bills center so bad.
Mitch Morse. Yeah, Mitch Morse. God, the Bills, dude.
Bills.
Their window's
Bills and
shut.
Broncos are both just take it all.
The Bills got rid of Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, both of their longtime starting safeties. Releasing Tre'Davious White was surprising to me because I figured they would get a pay cut out of him, but he is perpetually injured every year.
Yeah.
Great corner, great shutdown corner.
You think they keep Von Miller?
I think they already did a pay restructure.
Yeah, they restructured.
I think
already,
they've agreed to a restructure with him and somebody else on that defense.
That's what's nice about these veterans that only want these short 1-2 year contracts. You can get them on the cheap.
And the Bills, they still have a defense there. I don't know what their plan is at defensive back. They still have Greg Rousseau. They've got some, some good Ed Oliver.
So DeMar.
Yeah, DeMar Hamlin. Yeah, I guess is the guy. And on offense, it looks like Stephon Diggs is going to be staying the year unless there's a fit that
silly
happens.
to go anywhere else.
You can't. It's going to be
you're
hard.
with arguably the best quarterback in the whole NFL.
Yeah.
Just chill.
But the safety's getting released because, like you said, the Broncos, they released Justin Simmons. Cam Curl from Washington is going to be a free agent. Xavier McKinney is going to be a free agent. Kyle Duggar is a restricted free agent, which means you can make an offer, and if the Patriots don't match or exceed that offer, then you get him for, I think, a second-round pick, which you will also have to give up on that. So the safety market being so wide open to me is the most interesting because I can't tell if this is something that's going to thrive and contracts are going to be built or if this is the NFL's stance this season. If this is the NFL taking a stand like they did with running back contracts and how they're just saying you can replace them so easily, boom, 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 or is it going to be like, hey, fuck the safety money. We can get any corner and throw them at safety. It's becoming positionless in defensive backfields, kind of like basketball is on that. We'll get your money, and you're going to start to see these safeties going at a really kind of cheap rate. We could get Justin Simmons, anybody at a cheap rate here in Washington on that.
Cam Curl would probably be like, oh, that's all I can get over there? Let's just stay at home.
Yeah, stay in my home that I already have established.
Right.
So I'm curious what the next position is going to be like that. Mina Kimes was one who brought up that point on wide receivers and how great this draft class is. Like you said, how this is a incredible wide receiver draft class that's coming up. Are we going to start to see that position taken where teams are going to be like, hey, I don't need to pay Tyreek Hill this much money. There's dudes like Xavier Worthy who are running 4.21s out here. I can get them in the draft in the first or second round or third and have them cheap for 4 to 5 years.
The point that I brought up to you was Stephon Diggs turning into Justin Jefferson was the best example of that.
Right. You can replace it easily at this point. Like a lot of these guys who are not even the top tier. I mean, Justin Jefferson still doesn't have a contract with Minnesota, so we don't know. I don't know if is there anything interesting that you're following going into all of this?
Yeah, now that Baker seems to be staying in Tampa and Mike Evans is now back, I know we have Rachaad White at running back, but I'm very interested to see where these running backs are hitting free agency are going to end up going, because I think this is going to be another thing that's going to start resetting that running back market.
Yeah.
Because you got Tony Pollard coming out, you got Josh Jacobs coming out, you have a bunch of other big names. Saquon Barkley coming out. So I'm interested to see if Tampa Bay is going to be able to reach and grab one of these guys, because a lot of those guys can still play at a high level. You know, so but I think this is what's going to end up, like you said, resetting specifically the running back market, because it's been, topic of conversation for the last almost 4 seasons, how it seems like the running back position has been irrelevant with how these offenses have been going. So you have some of the biggest names in the sport coming out now. What are they going to garner as far as their contracts go? So that's really what's going to set the ceiling now. It's
going to be a fascinating turn of events here with free agency. Stick to the 323 network. The 323 wherever you get podcasts. But again, subscribe to the network. You got a shot at a $100 Amazon gift card if you subscribe by March 23rd. Stick to us. We'll have plenty of developing talk as free agency goes. Zuhair Ali, Scott Ellia, thank you guys for chatting football as we love to here in Washington, D.C. We'll talk to y'all later. Stay safe.
Bless you.
That's staying in. That's staying in.
I was struggling with one for a while.
I was trying not to sneeze so bad for a long time.